In this lesson, we're going to look at the external ports on a desktop PC system. Let's start with the most basic connectors. Over here on the left, you can see our mouse and our keyboard connector. These use a type of connector that are called mini DIN connectors. Older systems used a large keyboard connector called a DIN connector. Now they're much smaller and they're called mini DIN. Many times you'll see them referred to as PS2 because these were the type of ports IBM invented for their PS2 line of computers. They worked so well that everybody else adopted them. Now notice that there's two. There's one for the mouse and one for the keyboard. The one on the top that's colored green is for the mouse. The one on the bottom that's colored purple is for the keyboard. Usually, most PC manufacturers will follow that convention. Green for mouse, purple for keyboard. Unfortunately, I've worked with many systems over the years where they didn't follow that and they just used black. In that case, it's hard to tell which is mouse and which is keyboard. Hopefully, they follow the other convention, and that is that the mouse connector goes on top, keyboard connector goes on the bottom. I've never seen that rule violated. However, I'm not guaranteeing that somebody somewhere didn't make a motherboard with them reversed. The next connector we want to look at is our serial port. Now, the serial port uses a DB9 connector. We call it D connector because it kind of looks like a D that's turned on its side, and it has 9 pins in it. This connector is used to connect serial devices to the PC, such as a mouse, maybe a serial printer, or even a serial modem. The next connector we need to look at is our parallel connector. This connector uses a DB25 connector. Again, it has kind of that D shape turned on end, and it has 25 different pins. This connector is used to connect parallel devices with the PC system, such as a printer, maybe an external scanner, or even external hard drives that use a parallel interface. The next connector we want to look at is the SPDIF. That stands for Sony Philips Digital Interface. That's this connector right here. This interface is used to transfer audio files. The next connector we want to look at is the network connector. You can see this right here. Over the years, various types of network connectors have been implemented in PC systems. Today, the most popular type of network is an Ethernet network, and therefore many motherboards, such as this one, come with an Ethernet network connector already implemented. Now, the Ethernet network connector uses an RJ45 socket right here. Into this, you plug an RJ45 plug that's connected to a piece of twisted pair wiring, which connects you to the network. The next connector we want to look at are the USB connectors. These 4 connectors right here are USB connectors. USB is really cool. It allows us to connect a variety of external devices, up to 127 different ones to be exact, into these 4 different connectors using a series of USB hubs. We can connect things such as printers, digital cameras, external hard drives, and many other things through these USB ports. I've even seen sound cards and network interfaces that have been implemented using the USB connector. You can recognize a USB connector mainly by its shape. Notice that it's rectangular and that it has a tab that's offset from the center to prevent you from inserting the USB plug the wrong direction. Next, let's look at our audio interface. This set of connectors right here are those used for our audio. Now, this is a higher end motherboard. It's got a very nice audio interface that uses Dolby Audio. Hence, it has a few more plugs than you're probably used to seeing. On most systems, you will always see the plugs that you see over here on the left. The connector over here on the left, the blue one, is our line-in connector. If we have an audio source, such as, say, a stereo receiver, we can bring audio from it and connect it right here and listen to it through our PC speakers. The next connector, the green one, is our line-out connector. These are used to connect speakers to our PC system. The last connector, the pink one right here, is our microphone jack. We can plug in a microphone here and record audio from the microphone. Now, the colors that you see here, blue, green, and pink, are fairly well standardized in the PC industry, although they are not always adhered to. Many times you'll find them just black. If that's the case, just look for the label. Most soundboard manufacturers are really good about labeling in the metal what the particular port does. But do remember that if you see blue, you're looking at line in. If you see green, you're looking at line out or speaker. And if you see pink, you're looking at microphone. Now this particular motherboard is a high-end one. It has multiple channels using Dolby Audio. This connector up here, the black one up in the corner, is used for our rear speakers. The orange connector right here is used for our subwoofer channel. Some people call it the center channel. And then down here at the very bottom, we have our optical SPDIF connector. Just like we have a SPDIF connector over here, we have a second one over here. This one is designed for coaxial cable. This is designed for optical cable. Over here, we have our video connectors. These are implemented on an expansion board that's installed into the motherboard itself to provide our video function. This first connector is the DB15 connector. One way you can identify this connector as opposed to other types of DB connectors is the number of rows of pins. Notice that this connector has 3 rows. You see a DB type connector that has 3 rows of pins, you know right away that that is a video connector. Now, in the old days, this was the only type of video connector we had. This is called a VGA connector. We connected a standard VGA monitor to this port. We could see the screen as displayed by the CPU. Now, this is a higher end board and it has additional functionality. It also has this connector here. It's called an S-Video connector. This is designed so that you can plug a cable in here and plug your PC system into a television set and display output not only on the PC screen, but also on a television, which is really nice for gaming as well as making presentations. Now notice that this particular video board has an extra connector down here. This is called the DVI connector. This connector is designed for connecting this video board to a digital monitor. You see, our older monitors, our VGA monitors, were actually analog. We had to convert our digital signal from the PC into an analog signal for the monitor to display. Well, this digital connector right here allows us to take that digital signal and send it to a digital monitor and have a much crisper display. Now, there's one other type of connector that you need to be familiar with, and that is a FireWire or IEEE 1394 connector. Now, we don't actually have one implemented in this PC, but fortunately, we have a hole for one right here that gives us a general idea of the shape. Now, it looks a lot like a USB connector. However, it's beveled on one end, which keeps you from inserting the cable incorrectly. And FireWire functions much the same fashion as USB. Allows you to connect things like digital cameras, external hard drives, scanners, other types of external devices to the PC system. Make sure you're very familiar with each of these different types of connectors. You should be able to look at any connector on the back of any PC and be able to say, ah, that's a USB connector, or hey, that's a Ethernet connector, or that's a parallel port connector.